As we always do right about this time, we like to have my man J period T period is silent always come with what we know and love as suck shit.
So I was thinking,
Uh-oh.
because we up in the summer, and it hit me last night because the Ghost of Lebo, he going on vacation. We was all talking about different vacation plans we had. So I was thinking, like, what if like relationships or people were vacation packages? Okay. So I was thinking like one would be what I call the salt and sand niggas. Okay. So the salt is that person that's around you all the time, or the person you with that no matter what you say, they throw salt in the game, right? They always got something negative. That your homegirl ladies, that when you meet a guy and you like him, and she goes, well, you remember what happened last time, girl, be careful, right? Because she ain't got nobody. And then you got the sand ones, okay? And that's like the brother that throws out the sand and does a little soft shoe and tap dances for all the women. He's the dude that's at happy hour with 5 women, right? And he's the guy there, and you know he not smashing nobody,
Just buying drinks.
right? But he's the guy that when you talk to your lady, she always refers to him. Well, not all guys think like that. I was talking to Greg, and Greg said, so he's the moisturized cosign on everything, right? Okay, so the other one I was thinking about was I call them first class coaches. Okay, so these are the people you about to get on the plane. You got a ticket in first class, right? And they tell you, okay, when you get up there, they're gonna have some warm towels. Okay, that's to wipe your hands. Make sure you don't get too loud for the white folks. You don't want to show out this, and that. And you be like, oh, you hopping on the plane with me? No, I got a flight on Spirit 3 hours from now. I'm going from LA to Oakland. It's gonna take me 8 hours. It's only 13 stops.
Might as well take the bus.
And then the last one is what I call the all-inclusive, okay?
Okay.
Now, see, that's the guy that the women say they want, right? He's got it all. But here's the thing about those all-inclusive vacations. They dope because when you get there, you ain't got to worry about nothing. But you know you got to pay that price up front.
It's a pretty penny.
In most places, you got to pay it 30, 60 days in advance. You just can't stroll up to the counter and drop your money down at all-inclusive. They got to know you paid the fee up front. So that's my message to the women that go, I can be cooperative if he does this, and this. No, this is all-inclusive. You got to pay that fee up front. Oh, the brother, I'm going to get my stuff together, man. If all this falls into place. No, my brother, you got to pay that fee up front. Vacation package niggas is on some sucker shit.
So it's not like, you know what I mean, like saying nigga, like people mistake me for as I walk into 7-Eleven.
No,
Not that-
you're not
not
gonna
that
be on no watch list, no colors associated.
Okay, just making sure.
Orange alert, little orange alert.
Because I got to know that, the hair has gotten straighter and thinner, and it's problematic. People keep coming up to me speaking jacked up
Oh
languages.
my God. There it is. Hey, welcome once again to Skinny Black's Lounge. I am your host, Rob, aka Skinny Black. To my left,
Rennie, not a San Negro.
no, he's not. Okay, to his left,
JT, period is silent. Hi, mom.
yes, and to his left, the Ghost of Lebo.
My man.
Actually, he's on vacation.
Yeah, clear waters,
Yeah.
jet skis, suede thong.
Sweet dog. Oh shit.
He's chilling.
Got a yeast infection.
Can you get yeast infection from suede thong?
Yeah, I would assume so. I would hope so.
Okay.
If
You
you
get
did,
this joke.
you would deserve one if you had it on.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. So that's why I was curious. Stay curious. So listen. We're in the middle of a series of laying down our origin stories in the SBL universe, and that's the SBLU, just like the MCU, but different. And let's get into it, man. What are the experience that made us the men that we are today, experiences with women that shaped our thoughts about women, experiences with man and men that shaped our thoughts about manhood. Yeah, so who would like to go? It's Rennie, not the sand nigga.
Yeah, from a planet called Brooklyn.
There it is.
You know, via Georgetown, Guyana.
Yeah, spread love. It's the Brooklyn way.
Hey. And my pops didn't have no green card. Full on illegal immigrancy here during that influx post civil rights. You know.
There it is.
But
There it is.
both grandparents on both sides were from Guyana. As a matter of fact, my grandmothers had some familiarity with each other back in the old country. So as you look at it, you're shaped by that Caribbean ethic that comes in and trying to establish yourself here, coming from the third world country and the extreme poverty that existed in these places, specifically in the fact that it's not a tourist state, you know, not like Jamaica or one of the other islands where you have this commerce there and this industry. So when you coming from here, from Jamaica, from Guyana, you're coming from nil, you're coming from nothing. And so, my grandfather on the maternal side, who holistically probably the biggest influence on everything that I am as a human being, was came here as a young man after his mother left him in Guyana at the age of 5. And so this is important in the sense that what shaped him was because he spent his entire adolescence living with other people. And by virtue of that experience, it being so horrifying, he recognized that the vulnerability of children, and at the same time that he would never, ever treat someone else's child like that. And more so that any child that entered into his home was his child. And so that is how that's what shaped him. That's what shaped his existence. So as he started to have his own children, 11, and then I think at the time,
Never met a condom he liked.
yeah,
Guyana, bust a nut.
yeah, his 11 children, him and his wife, and any other child that came into their household, their friends, his nieces, his nephews, any other child that came into his house was his child. Period.
Dope.
He was dad to all, regardless of the cost.
Probably because you couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Hey, he lost count. Whatever.
There was a point where he was going to shut it down after kid 5. He came to my grandmother and says, "Hey, man, it's rough out here, man. Got these 5 kids. It's the mid-40s.
Providing.
Yeah. So, I'm out here,
man.
I'm out here trying to do this. I'm a chauffeur. You know what I mean? I'm a plumber's assistant. I'm doing all these things, and yo, we gotta figure something out." And he says, "Man, we gotta do something, man. We gotta, man, maybe abstain."
I got 13 job mine.
Yeah. And he said, man, he said his piece, like, "Yo, man, this is too much." He turned his back, and then over his ear, it was the iron.
What?
The old school ones that
old
you had to
school
put
heavy
on the
one?
oven.
Oh yeah, I know that.
You know what I'm saying? Like the old curling iron, but the iron that you had to
yeah.
actually sit, like the Monopoly game joint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Flew by his ear. So 6 kids later, he got the picture. You know what I'm saying? He had an understanding that wife wasn't going for that. She was like, "Hey man,
Factory's still open.
if you ain't getting it here, where you gonna go get it then, Playboy?" You know what I'm saying? So via that, my pops fresh off the boat, meets my mother. Moms gets pregnant. As you do in those days with my older brother, you get married. You know what I mean? You get married.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. Not necessarily a nuptials made in the complete synergy of commonality of experiences together, and we decide we're going to take this journey. You you do what you have a child, and you have a child on the way, man. You step up and you do what you need to do. And so then I came as the deuce, the second one, the one made in the full covenant of the nuptials, and from there it was a little bit of a deterioration of a relationship, to the point where by the time my next brother came around, that it was done, it was done. But during this period, I wasn't, I was around my pops and his brothers, in that fold, and always around a collective of men. And at the same time, you get my mother had 11 siblings, and so always around another collective of men, and in that tradition of Black families where, the village raised the child. And specifically, since my grandmother had always been a housewife, we were at the house with my grandmother, and which means we always came home to my grandfather. And from there, he shaped what the physicality of a relationship between a man and his son is. At no point in time did he ever say, my grandsons. He would walk in the door, and me and my brothers and several of my other cousins that were there, small, but me and my brothers were always there. And he would walk in the door, and he'd be, well, my sons. And that ownership, that the way he just took us, you could say ownership, you could say a lot of different things, but we were his, we belonged to him. And by virtue of that, we always knew we belonged to someone. And then it was a physicality to it, At no point in time did this man that I can recall in my life ever say, I love you. Okay. But at no point in time did I ever not feel consumed in love in his presence, consumed in it. He was the embodiment of it. Everything that I do and every movement that I have, even with y'all, is based in love infused into me by him. The handshake, the grabbing of your neck, the hug. Every time I roll up on my nephews in their 20s, without any hesitation or anything like that, they know there will be affection, physical affection. I don't have to say, come give uncle a kiss. They're going to come kiss their uncle. And by virtue of that, my uncles, all of them had it, the physicality in it. And like I said, no I love yous, no conversations, but all the movement was made in love, even them whooping our ass. Was steeped in love. And never, no point in time did I think that there was some element of cruelty or anything like that. It was gratuitous or anything like that. Everything was created under the auspices of love. And with this love, this love had conditions and expectations that came with it. And expectations are a good thing. Expectations aren't a bad thing. Even though as a youth, you kind of rail against expectations sometimes, but these expectations are a good thing. And so parents' relationship deteriorate. My mom decides she wants to take an opportunity into California. Her brother is already there doing his residency at King Hospital, the only place that, one of the few places in the entire country that Black doctors could do their residency. And she takes the opportunity here, and we move into that fold with him, who always, by virtue of, I think him encouraging my mother to come in her struggles, I think he felt the obligation to then step in, like your situation, and become a more hands-on part into our lives. Now, that also came with another an element, because now I'm seeing this repetition of men who come forward and embody fatherhood in spaces where they are not of your direct seed, your direct line, but they've taken the responsibility of it. And so my grandparents eventually moved here, and now my grandfather's back in the fold. We were probably outside of that fold with my grandparents for a year, you know. And it was an interesting story within that, because my grandfather came, and it was the middle of winter, and came for the visit, and he was quiet. He was taking it all in. You can tell, as in hindsight, I know he was taking it all in. He got off the plane, and he took the winter coat off. He had it in his hand, and he was just probably about 60 degrees in December, Christmas, you know. Comes in the house, and it's about 3 a.m. New York time, and he makes a call to my grandmother and tells her, you know, pack your shit, we'll move in. And that was it. Man never lived through another winter in his life.
He's like, I ain't doing that no more.
Yeah,
He's
that's
like,
some
wait a minute,
bullshit.
60 in December.
exactly.
This is nice.
Reminds me of home.
Yeah. That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. Reminded him of home. You know what I mean? Put him in a place that he hadn't been in, at that point, almost 50 years.
Wow.
You know? Put him in a place he hadn't been in almost 50 years. And it connected with his spirit. And that created the exodus out of New York from the rest of the relatives, and they all eventually.
Glad y'all escaped, man.
Yeah.
Escape from New York.
Yeah. And, you know, it's no coincidence that this is crack 80s. You know what I mean? This is crack 80s. So what was West Indian, you know, Brooklyn, and, you know, which was devolving into something completely different. And, you know, here with my mom and my brothers and my sister, and doing things that young men do, sometimes without supervision, and getting into things and whatnot. But there's always, my grandfather's always sliding in there with a hand, and my uncles always sliding in there in a hand and letting them know that they ain't too far away from things, until it got to a point where, you know, my pops, my uncle decided, nah, man, I'm over this. And really didn't give me much of a choice, and was just like, you're gonna stay right here. And it wasn't tender, you know what I mean? It wasn't a conversation, you know.
You mean he didn't ask you?
No, man, it wasn't no ask.
Oh, okay.
There's no ask in it.
He didn't care how you felt about it?
No, man, he didn't care how I felt. He
So
didn't
you
even
mean
care
your-
how my mother felt
You
about
mean
it.
your feelings didn't matter?
Did not matter at all.
Oh my God, no violins played in the background.
He didn't even care how my mother felt about it.
Wow.
He's
Sounds like some manhood to me.
he's like,
Nothing to do.
yeah, this is the go. And this is what we're going to do. I know you guys, other brothers and things like that, but we're going to work all this out. But at some point, we need to right this ship in this very specific way. And so, by virtue of that, you know, put me right back close to my grandfather again, because they lived right around the corner. And so now I'm back in that fold. And like I said, it's understanding that treating the child like, when they're in your space, like they're your own. And there's no half-ass in that. You know what I mean? There's like, these are my sons, and this is my nephew, or these are my sons, and these are my grandsons, and these are my neighbor's sons. No, man, it's just your home.
It's just family.
They belong to you.
Exactly.
And so by virtue of that, we went out into the world and we embodied that same thing. Hey, if this is family, then this is how family operates. And from there, the structure existed where all those expectations kicked in. So I went from being at my mom's, and my mom working in nights and going to nursing school and things like that, moving around with a whole lot of freedom, So yeah, so check this out. It's Monday. And on Monday we don't do TV. We're Tuesday. We're Wednesday. We're Thursday. But you can read something, you know? And so I was like, all right, you know, read something. So he was like, hey, what'd you read today? Oh, I was looking. Jimmy, he's looking for something. Got 2 newspapers. You didn't read a newspaper? I'll tell you what. Okay, well, you need to figure out something in there. I want to hear about something. Next day, what'd you read? Woke me up. Got in late. Woke me up. What'd you read? The Metro section.
All bad.
Yeah.
Like me.
So I tell you what. Since you seem to have an issue verbalizing it, I'm gonna need you to write this out.
Exactly.
We need to write you out. You've done current events. I'm gonna need 3. Boom. So now here I am with the who, what, where, when, and the why. You know, he's like, okay, knock those out. And it's a simplistic form, bro. You know what I mean? Okay, well, here you go. Here's a book. We're gonna read this. Science fiction book. Man, I ain't into science fiction. Yeah, man, you had a choice what to read. You forfeited that when you didn't.
You punted.
Yeah, you gave yourself homework too.
Yeah.
Book reports, current events.
And this is in addition to your regular schoolwork. So figure it out, man. So I go through it. I read the book, and then I figure out, man, I'm not interested in this, so I need to figure out things that I'm interested in. Right? So then I'm saying, well, I'm interested in these things. Derek brought something by called The African Origin of Judeo-Christianity. There's a videotape, and he told me that the dude on there has a book. And his name is Dr. Ben. And so he's like, all right. 2 days later, I got Dr. Ben. So I'm reading about Dr. Ben. And I'm reading about African origin and Judeo-Christianity. Then I got Stolen Legacy. And I'm reading about that. And I'm 14 and I'm going through these things. And then, I mean, I got nothing but time. So now I'm in every section of the newspaper. And then I realized, man, the Daily Breeze is BS. It's evening newspaper, man. You know what I mean? I need to mess with this LA Times stuff in this international section and things like that. So now I'm devouring the newspaper section by section. And I'm like, man, the Metro is just stories about murders and things like that. And there's no development. And I know, you know, and it always seems to be about black people killing big black people. Yeah, I don't want to read that, man. So now I'm reading about politics and Israel and things like that. And then find myself in these spaces where I'm talking to teachers and I'm questioning things and they're really not feeling the line of questioning.
Hell no, they not.
That's coming into play.
So they didn't read the paper.
Right. So I'm thinking like, you know, why are you afraid of questions? You know, when I go home, I get asked a million questions. You know, as a matter of fact, man, he's most enthused when I have a level of questions.
Yes.
Now our conversation goes from being a fully directive conversation to be an interactive, interrogative conversations where now he's asking me questions and fleshing things out. And then I'm posing the same questions to my grandfather and realizing, man, this cat with the barely elementary school education is really, really well read.
Autodidact.
And I'm like, I mean, now I'm starting to understand, like, perspective-wise, like, why he's able to move and interact the way he does. He's a handyman. And then I start to learn about, you know, wait, when he was working at Variety back in New York as a child, I always thought he was the engineer, but they had him as the custodian. So he was fixing the printing presses and everything there and keeping the Daily Variety entertainment newspaper up and running. But he was getting paid like the janitor because they didn't pay black men as engineers. And so now I'm looking at, man, how did he move in all these spaces? And then I'm looking at when he first came to this, where did he learn to fix all these things? How did he become the handyman? Well, he worked on an estate as a chauffeur. And what do those estates have? They have plumbers. They have electricians. They have contractors. They have a brick mason. And so what he did is he cherry picked every single one of these guys and got a skill set. And so all his little side gigs that he was doing when he was working for Daily Variety of this handyman sort, those are all things that he had coupled together while he was in service of these people on this estate. And so that was all these little things that he used to do to support his family. And then in retirement, which he couldn't fully retire because custodians didn't get pension, but the guy he was working for kept him on the payroll until Variety sold, and they figured out, like, man, who is this dude getting paid? Why are we still paying this dude? And they cut that off, and his retirement was gone. Oh. So he had to go back to work as the handyman, you know. But he enjoyed the work. And so now I'm in the space with this man working, you know, he takes his sons. Just like when we were younger and he would take us to do the handyman stuff. Now I'm an adult, now I can help him. I'm 15, 16 years old. And now we're in the spaces, and now, you know, I'm looking at him interact with people and how he speaks to them and his charm and how they always want him to come back and do things for him, and how the thoroughness by which he goes about it, and just his extreme intelligence. And then I learned what deportment was and what elocution was, and how to utilize in the spaces to your advantage, and how you can disarm people and then bring them back in and welcome them into your space. And so I'm just watching him move. And then, I mean, how can I be that charming? You know, how can I be that likable? You know, and you look at that, at his evolution from that space, but I don't get it if I'm not there to witness it, if I don't see it, you know, firsthand. You know, this 5 foot, you know, 66-inch man walk into a room full of giants and be taller than everyone in it, and just watch people gravitate toward him, and nothing manufactured, but just being genuine, you know. And, you know, I learned that I'm looking at his son, my pops, like, you know, who's in internal medicine practice and things like that. And I'm like, man, this dude has all these advanced degrees and things like that, and he's fucking brilliant. But this dude is genius. Right. This dude is genius, and I'm trying to find the things that create the genius. Like what look at the confluence of circumstances that created this genius. You know what I mean? The mom leaving in Guyana when he was 5, and then they're sending money back to Guyana for each child every couple years. And since he's the youngest, he's going to be the last one to go. And he would only see his mother every couple of years when she would come back. And, you know, the angst of a young boy wanting to see his mother because his father had died. See his mother and looking forward to it. And then one day comes back and she's dead. You know, they come back and bring her back to bury her. You know what I mean? But then his brothers and sisters are there to bring forth and finally get him to this country. So you look at what that shaped in him, the reverence to his mother for the sacrifices that she made in order to get her children into this country. And then him seeing his wife while he was still in Guyana and then saying, I'm gonna marry that woman. And then when he catches her here, that's what he does. Finds out she's here and he marries her. And they create that union. Those 11 children, those 60-something grandchildren.
It's called Me Too now.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
That's a hashtag.
100%. And, you know, and her ability to be at home and raise 11 children and then raise all of those grandchildren coming there too there also. And that net created by his work, and then by virtue of that support they got when they were older from my pops, stepping in there and taking care of that household when he was like 40, you know? So he's got his children he birthed. He's got me and a couple others, not to mention the kids that we brought into the house with us that didn't have nowhere to go, that stayed there. And then he's got his parents' household that he's taking care of. And my grandmother's steadily bringing in more babies.
Y'all niggas live a Motel 6?
Yeah, and that's what he was saying. But he's out there and he's breaking bread.
We'll leave the light on.
Exactly. And he's breaking bread. He's taking care of the space.
Bunk couches.
So when it came time to like when I had to do something in my, I'm in college, we out here getting at these frauds, and, you know what I mean? At this cabin dance at USC in Annenberg, I just met a bad one, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And I'm coming in there at 3 a.m, but I got to go work at Rouse at 6 a.m. And this cat is wondering why I ain't up on time to go ahead and handle that business, because I sure get up and I handle business, you know what I mean? You had a place to come home to, Playboy. You know what I mean? So I don't see why you can't get up on time and shuffle yourself up the street and bag them groceries and take care of that for that money that I don't get to see, as he would tell me all the time. That's your money. That ain't mine. Yeah. So all these things create this air of responsibility and certain things that shape you, And I've told you all about the one particular incidents where one of them late night parties, and I'm slipping out, I realize this cat is awake, and I'm trying to slip out and get to work, you know what I mean? And,
Trash cans.
Yeah, man, trash cans. Trash cans are full. And he was like, hey, man, why the trash cans full, man? It was trash day yesterday. And I was like, oh, man, my young brother didn't pull him to the curb. And he was like, man, that's not what I asked you, man. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, well, they didn't take him to the curb. And he was like, well, that's your responsibility to make sure you take him to the curb. I was like, man, I woke him up. What you mean you woke him up? He's like, hey, man, what do you do? And I was like, huh? So what do you do? What do you do? Why are you here? I said, well, I'm about to go to work. He's like, no, man, that's not what I asked you, man. Yeah. What do you do for me? And I was like, well, I'm in college. My grades at the time were good. He's like, no, man, you do that for you, man. I got a college degree. I got several. That's for you. I said, well, I work and I go to school. He's like, no, man, that's your money. I don't see it. What do you do for me? And I didn't know how to answer any of that.
Because you wasn't doing shit. like all of us.
Yeah. And I was confused.
Answer. I ain't doing shit for you.
I was confused. Just thoroughly confused. And I could see the frustration growing in his face as he's moving and maneuvering the trash. And there's some other extemporaneous stuff that I had in there, man. My buddies had some beer, and they put the beer back in the box, and they had put it on the side of the trash can. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking it was neat. So he says to me, he says, hey, man, you know what? He said, hey, man, and I could see it. He says, man, I don't like you. And I was like, wow. Huh? He said, I don't like you, man. I love you, but I don't like you, man. You don't do likable things. And he was like, yo, man, if you can't get these dudes to handle business, then what are you here for? What are you offering? What are you providing for in this space, man? I don't need another burden. And he was like, man, go to work. Go to your job. Go get your money and pay that little funky phone bill that you pay for and buy the new sneakers. Go. Man, get out my face, man.
Damn.
Come on. Soul crushing.
Oh, man.
So I walk to work, and I'm there, and I'm confused. And I'm so caught up in the I don't like you portion of it. Takes me days to get out of the I don't like you portion of it. And then I realized you don't do likable things. And then I say to myself, well, if that's the case, man, if I'm going to just do whatever it is so I don't have to have that conversation anymore. Whatever it is. Come in at 2 a.m, the cat's supposed to clean the dishes. I'm washing. Somebody leaves something in the dryer. I'm pulling it out. I'm going to fold it. I'm going to put it away. You know, all the holidays at our house. I'm going to get up before everybody else. I'm going to get the yard straight. I'm going to clean the stuff off in the backyard. I'm going to prepare for everything. I'm just going to work. And that's just what I did. But I was doing it to not hear it.
Right.
I wasn't doing it for righteous principles and things like that. I wasn't doing it to contribute to my part in the space. You know, those weren't the things that I was doing it for. I was doing it to get him off my back, you know, for all the wrong reasons. Right. Doing the right thing for all the wrong reasons. Until eventually I had an understanding of what it is and what I was doing. And you know what took me to understand that? My first corporate job. And I was working 6 a.m. when I first started to like 7 at night. And then I realized,
God damn.
This cat, hotels, salary, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
First corporate gig. And then I realized, hey man, this dude's been leaving the house at 6 a.m. and coming home at 8, 9 a.m. for 20 something years. I mean, PM, 8, 9 PM for 20 something years. I was like, I've only been doing this for 2 months. I feel like I'm gonna die. Straight up, I felt like I was gonna die. I was like, now how you do this? I was like, I don't know how to handle this, you know? And just the perspective of being put in those positions and then getting that and having an understanding and all that obligation and looking at it. And so, you know, as I started to move out into the world as a man, I realized it's my obligation to father every single boy that I come across the same exact way, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of whether they want me to be it or not. I'm gonna create these expectations and you're gonna choose to rise to these expectations or you're not. But you won't be able to say that Rennie allowed you to slack, you know? So when he was coaching and I was coaching with him, you know, I was infusing the same love and the same expectations and the same energy that my grandfather infused into him and he infused into me and collectively we put together, you know? And I remember one of my buddy Darren Early saying, man, I got all these daughters, man, I need to come out here and they need husbands. So if I don't get out here and try to make some husbands and make a difference with these young men, then what am I? And I was like, man, I've been doing that for years. He just get codified and put some nomenclature to what I've been doing and what that man plan that my grandfather and my pops created a long time ago.
He also had a plan for his daughters to have husbands.
Definitely.
This thing on? No, sorry.
Yeah. So that's my rant.
Couple things. First of all, thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh my God.
You used the word because you know some of y'all gonna be confused because you used the word interrogative, and they gonna think that's a cutoff of the "Don't Be Cruel" Bobby Brown album.
Yeah, it's my interrogative.
Yeah.
Pre-rocket.
You know what I mean?
It's my
y'all
interrogative.
Google that. What I find interesting, a lot of the story, but when you were talking about the uncle with the degrees, and then grandfather, and your grandfather that could command a room, I think that sometimes with us, you got to get your education, and we fall in love with the degree. So many of our degrees don't mean anything, but we don't go on the spiritual. We don't go on the self-education journey. Right? It's the books that you choose to read, not the assignments that you had to do.
Right.
That will make you. Those experiences. So when you saw your grandfather, you saw a whole life walk into a room. And wisdom and experience. And you can't go study that. You can't go, they don't teach that at USC or UCLA.
You gotta witness that.
You can't pay for that. That's a life lived, right? And that's also a testament to manhood, and you saw it in action. So I'm just, it's not really a question, but just I felt that, that particular thing, it just touched my spirit.
You know, and the interesting thing about him is how he owned blackness and not. He would say, "Hey, man, you know, if you ever sent me to war in Guyana, you know, I could never go to arms against my origin, my country, you know." He says, "But understand that no matter how many times black people here ridicule my accent, I understand that I am still and singularly a black man, and that any time that judgment comes from them, it comes from a source outside of them, and they just may not be knowing it, and I can't blame them for their ignorance. But ultimately, when it comes down to the wire, we are one and the same." And so while I always held on to being Guyanese, the green, gold, and red flag and the whole nine, you know, and me and my brother being immersed in that from a very young age makes us the most complete accent doing, because it's all we heard all damn day long. "Rennie, hey boy, go clean that damn bathroom now," you know. All of those things. We always knew that we were inherently black men in this space where blackness, they don't want it. It's abhorred. And he knew that, and he understood that. So he never played that, you know, even though he had a country, you know, he said, "I left."
For a reason too.
You know? I was right there.
Yeah, he telling you to clean that bathroom.
You know? At the same time, my paternal grandfather left for the exact same, and stayed for the exact same reason. When they got their independence, and my grandmother left with my pops and her sons, he says, "Nah, man, we fought for this, bro. I own this crib. We got the British out of here. I ain't going nowhere."
Two
You know?
different perspectives.
Yeah, exactly.
That's dope too.
But he left one left in 30s, one chose to stay in 1960 something, and came here to visit, and was like, "Hey man, just send some of these sons down here to see me, send my grandsons down." But we fought too much for this right here, you know.
Yeah.
And so I had to understand that in itself, and the choices that were made within that also, you know. But it's all inherently African, and they never ever forgot anything about that.
Yo, something that the thing that jumped out to me is probably similar to what you had, Jay. It's just another slice of it is the reading part, man. You know, that's self-education. You know, yeah, uncle with the degrees, pops grandfather's smarter, right?
1000%.
Because he read.
Yeah.
Because he was well read, right? He took the time to take all of these experiences and life lessons that other people who have done this shit before. I don't have to recreate the wheel. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can just read this shit and learn it. So I say that to say, I see that in you. I see that in you. And it just clicked to me, like, for me to you guys, that's my connection. Because I respect, and I've always said this, the dopest cats in the world that I've known in my life are well read. I don't give a fuck if it's comic books or the daily newspaper.
Yeah, I read the newspaper every day.
Every day.
I read the newspaper every day growing up.
'Cause
You know,
I
side rant.
hold up, before you hit that rant, it's me and my mom, right? She in her room, I'm in my room. And so for a good portion of the time, I had my own little black and white TV. She was like, "Read, nigga." You know what I'm saying? My mom used to read novels in like 2-3 days. She'd sit in her room and read, and that was her entertainment. And so I sit in my room and I read till the Jeffersons came on. Till it's time for Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
My mom read Harlequin romance novels.
Hey, that's my mom, man.
Yeah, my mom
read them shits in 2 or 3 days, and it'd be a stack to stacks. So I know it just clicked to me today. Thank you, brother. That's my connect to you guys. Go ahead on your rant.
No, all I was gonna say is one of the things that gets on my nerves is when people say, in my experience, how many billion people are walking the planet, and you gonna go on your trifling ass 27-year life. You ain't been out the city, but you go, well, in my experience, I never seen nothing like that. Wait a minute, hold up. You wasn't sitting at a lunch counter in Selma, but you know it was a civil rights movement, right? Yes. But you didn't experience it. In my experience, as if you just like the most traveled. People kill me with that. That's an announcement of your limitation. Mm-hmm. That's all. Mini rant. I'm good.
All right. Hey, there it is. Rennie's Oranges story. Thank you, brother. Mm-hmm. Appreciate you.
A little long-winded. I apologize.
Nah, not long-winded. Now y'all know why you can spell.
Yeah, that's why you did extemporaneous. Man, you gotta put that underneath. I like that. I like that.
It is.